Hey there, welcome to the Bible in 5. In the next week and a half or so, you're going to be reading through a whole bunch of different letters in the New Testament. And they're all short, which is why in the reading plan you're kind of reading through them quickly. So in this one video, I'm going to try and encapsulate 6 different letters in the New Testament. So this might be like a Bible in 6 or 7, I don't know. So the letters of James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude, they are all written by, closest followers of Jesus, right, in the circle of the disciples. They were written by the key leader of the early Jerusalem church, Peter, who was part of the original circle, John, son of Zebedee, who was part of the original circle, and Jude, who was the brother of Jesus. And while they're all very different and they all touch on different themes, this I have found is kind of a helpful way of understanding how they're unique and distinct from each other. So the themes of suffering, gospel, and devotion. So James and 1 Peter are written to people, early Christians, people in churches who were undergoing intense suffering or persecution or difficulty. We know from the book of Acts that James was the leader of the Jewish Christian communities in Jerusalem, and that they underwent a time of extreme poverty. And so James very much focuses on the role of trials and suffering and hardship, and the way God can use those to grow us up in our faith and in our patience and in trust in God and so on. Peter focuses on suffering from a different angle, from the angle of persecution. So here it's not just circumstances are difficult, it's that he's writing to Christians in the Greek and Roman world who are being persecuted, imprisoned, robbed, even killed for their faith. And so both of these letters are encouraging followers of Christ during times of persecution, difficulty, and hardship. They're very, very powerful. These next letters, 2 Peter, 2nd and 3rd John, and Jude, they really focus in on the content of the gospel and address a huge problem that was happening in the early church. Namely, that the gospel is so surprising, right? The gospel of God's sheer grace, that he would, out of his love for a broken humanity, send Jesus to live, die, and be raised on our behalf as an act of love and grace. This is such a surprising message, and it's so counter to our religious tendencies to want to earn our own way to God, to create traditions of religious social clubs or whatever, that the gospel is often and easily distorted. It becomes a different version. It becomes a false gospel very quickly and easily. And so what was happening in the early church, and what each of these letters is doing, is it's written to specific churches or to a region of churches that were essentially being threatened by false, distorted versions of the gospel, being propagated by teachers who were teaching these distorted versions of the gospel. So each one of these letters is just going to take on those teachers, take on those false truths, and try and remind people of the true version of the gospel. And it's a big part of what these letters are doing. 1 John, while it actually has some overlap with this theme right here of preserving the true gospel, 1 John also has a unique set of themes. It's what I call devotion. And 1 John actually is not really a letter at all. It doesn't say who it's written to. It doesn't even say who it's really written by. And if you read 1 John, it doesn't read like a linear development of thought, like maybe 1 Peter or 2 Peter. What this really is, it's like a collection of short poems, of theological poems. And John is exploring a core set of themes related to the gospel, but also what a life of devotion to the gospel and to Jesus really is about. And so he explores really just a core set of themes, and he just explores them over and over again in different ways. So he has this image that God is life or light, and that he wants to give new birth or create new humanity in people who are living in darkness or in their own sin and so on. And so he retells the story of the gospel. He sends Jesus to die for the sins of the world. But John has lots of images revolving around what it means to be a true believer in Jesus and to experience life transformation. And so he has all of these images of like what it means to walk in the light. Or if you don't actually love the people around you, it doesn't matter how much you say you like have believe in Jesus or whatever, your heart hasn't truly been changed yet. So he talks about obeying Christ's teachings. He talks about forgiving and loving others and so on. And so what John is doing is he's unpacking what a life of true faith looks like. If you've truly had an encounter with the gospel, the life of devotion that results, that's what John is trying to explore here. So these are all very, very powerful letters. They're short, which means they need to be reread, they need to be prayed over, and we need to reflect on our own lives as we think about the very profound, powerful themes brought up here of suffering, of the gospel, and devotion. So I realize that's very brief, but I hope it's at least helpful as you begin to read these letters in the next week and a half or so here. So I hope that's helpful. See you next time.